Good evening, everyone. First off, I'd like to humbly acknowledge the land we live, learn, work, and play is Treaty 8 territory, traditional lands of Korean Dene, and unceded territory of the Métis. For rec, we have Councillor Boussier online. If Councillor, you have your camera on for voting purposes, please. If anyone in attendance wishes to address and present to any of the presentations this evening, please register to the right of myself, the Legislative Services desk, before the start of that presentation. You'll have 5 minutes to present. Please remain on topic and remain seated for questions following that. Before moving on to adoption agenda, I'd like to turn to Councillor Weigel to put a notice of motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got 2 motions to present. My first motion is I, Councillor Weigel, serve notice of my intent to bring forward the following motion for Council's consideration at the December 9th Council meeting, that administration be instructed to initiate discussions with Regional Recreation Corporation regarding the transfer of the facility operations for Vista Ridge All-Seasons Park at the end of the current agreement. And then my second motion is I, Councillor Weigel, serve notice of my intent to bring forward the following motion for Council's consideration at December 9th Council meeting, that administration be directed to review and enter into a service agreement with the Fort McMurray Snowdrifters Association for the maintenance of the trail systems within the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo, and that up to $150,000 be allocated from the emerging issues reserved to fund this agreement.
Thank you, Councillor Weigel. And another notice motion, Councillor Scott.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Councillor, so this is my notice of motion. Councillor Don Scott served notice of my intent to bring forward the following motion for Council's consideration at the December 9th, 2025 Council meeting. Whereas rising electricity costs continue to place a significant burden on residents, businesses, and community organizations within the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo, and whereas many municipalities across Canada have explored or implemented various models such as municipally owned utilities, cooperatives, or negotiated supply arrangements to reduce costs, stabilize rates, and improve local control. And whereas it is in the public interest for Council to understand whether establishing a municipal utility or pursuing alternative models could provide long-term benefits, including cost savings. And whereas Municipal Council would benefit from a comprehensive analysis of the advantages, disadvantages, risks, financial implications, regulatory requirements, and governance considerations associated with these options. Therefore, be it resolved that administration prepare a report for Council that 1. Investigates the feasibility, costs, and potential benefits of establishing a municipally owned or municipally controlled utility to provide electricity services in the region. Analyzes alternative mechanisms. 3. Provide a clear comparison of advantages and disadvantages of each option, including impacts on electricity rates, regulatory obligations, liabilities, governance structures, implementation, timelines, and alignment with municipal strategic priorities. Identifies any legislative, regulatory, or interagency barriers that would need to be addressed. 5. Outlines next steps and engagement requirements, including consultation with residents, Indigenous communities, local industry, and key stakeholders. 6. Makes a recommendation that aligns with the analysis. Be it further resolved that administration return with this report within 6 months. Councillor Don Scott.
Thank you, Councillor Scott, and thank you, Councillor Weigel. Can I have someone now make the motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Allen.
I move the agenda be adopted as presented.
And thanks for a second, Councillor Weigel, and I'll call for a vote. And thank you, Councillor Boussier, for the in favor. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? I'm not seeing any. Can I have someone make that motion? Councillor Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that recommendations contained in 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4 be approved.
And thanks for the second, Councillor Vardy. And we'll call for a vote. And Councillor Boussier in favor. Thank you. And that again is carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to presentations, we have a presentation for information on the Fort Chipewyan Water Treatment Plant. Just go ahead when you're ready, Antoine.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Antoine Remp. I'm the Director of Environmental Services. And with me is my colleague, Katie McDonald, Acting Manager of Emergency Management. Tonight, we're here to provide an update on the current status of the Fort Chipewyan Water Treatment Plant, the Continuity of Water Supply, also known as COWS project, and the Fort Chipewyan Lake Intake Relocation Feasibility Study. On October 29, the community of Fort Chipewyan Municipal Water Treatment Plant experienced some challenges, which resulted in a boil water advisory and a water conservation advisory. These advisories were lifted by November 12th. Today, we're sharing an overview of the incident and how our teams responded and worked alongside the nations and the community. This slide focuses on the timeline only. I'll explain the causes on the next slide. On October 29, my staff informed me of a concern with the treated water storage level at the plant being lower than normal. Because of a problem with half of our treatment process, our supply of water couldn't keep up with the demand in the distribution system. The team was hopeful that ongoing adjustments would fix the issue by the next morning. However, given the risk, we notified council and community leadership the night of October 29th and asked to meet the next morning to share an update. The next morning, on October 30th, we learned that the adjustments had not worked. Storage levels continued to drop to the point that overnight the distribution pumps went off and we experienced a low pressure event in the distribution system. We updated the provincial regulators of the situation early that morning, and while awaiting a response from the province, we met again with mayor, council, and community leadership to provide a situational update. This led to the activation of the Regional Emergency Coordination Center and issuance of a water conservation advisory to help reduce water use in the community. Shortly after, we also decided to prioritize water availability over water potability by pushing water into the system with turbidity higher than what the Canadian Drinking Water Guidelines mandates, which triggered a boil water advisory for the hamlet of Fort Chipewyan. The plan was to have the issue resolved within 10 to 14 days. Over the following week, our staff, along with external support, were able to restore compliant water production. By the evening of November 5th, we finished flushing the distribution system. Samples were taken over the next 2 days, and with satisfactory results confirmed on November 9th, the boil water advisory was lifted. The water conservation advisory stayed in place for another 3 days until November 12th as a precaution, while we continue to make additional adjustments at the plant. As part of the incident recovery process, the following factors were identified as primary contributors. The first was a significant change in water quality in Lake Athabasca due to the low water level in the lake, mixed with high winds coming from the west over the previous weeks. This resulted in lake water with increased turbidity, lower alkalinity, and lower pH entering the plant, beyond what is normally observed. This seasonal occurrence is normally managed by avoiding to pump water from Lake Athabasca during the seasonal turnover period. Instead, we would rely on the raw water that is stored in the ponds in front of the plant. For that to happen, the ponds need to be full to accommodate the volume of water necessary. This year, over the summer months, our team had been validating an alternate management strategy for the raw water storage ponds that required them to be operated at lower than normal levels. The initiative, while well-intended, persisted too late in the year. One of the main reasons to cause that was the need to deal with a diesel contamination that was found outside of the water treatment plant earlier this year, which required extensive work to clean up. That diesel contamination did not affect the water quality in our process, but it did take the team's attention away from the pond management need. Because of that, the level in the ponds was lower than usual at this time of year, which forced us to draw water from Lake Athabasca to maintain sufficient volume, which means we drew water into the pond that was more turbid than usual, more turbid and less alkaline. The change in water chemistry entering the plant challenged treatment in both trains and ultimately caused a process upset in train 2. The higher turbidity clogged the filters too quickly and reduced our capacity to produce potable water by 50%. Adding to that, at this time of year, the water bleeders are turned back on in the community, increasing the water demand into the system. Together, this led to demand outpacing production, forcing us to decide between running out of potable water or pushing water into the system that exceeded the turbidity limit. The moment we pushed water into the system that exceeded the Canadian Drinking Water Guideline limits, AHS issued the Boil Water Advisory. We added the Water Conservation Advisory to help us get the plant back on track by reducing the demand and allowing us to reset the treatment process.
Thank you, Antoine. For the record, my name is Katie MacDonald. It was identified early in this incident that establishing an incident command post and an emergency coordination center was necessary to maximize the effective and efficient response. The intent of the incident command post was to focus on stabilizing the water treatment plant and resuming full capacity as quickly and safely as possible. The Emergency Coordination Center was activated with an incident management team, or an IMT, to take on all support functions for the incident command post. Establishing an ECC allowed the incident commander to focus on the priority of fixing the water treatment plant issues while not dismissing any critical functions of incident management. Next slide, thank you. For context, I'll take a minute now to explain the role of the DEM and the RECC, or the Regional Emergency Coordination Center, which operates by activating an incident management team during incidents. During response, the DEM reports to the CAO to ensure alignment of priorities, spending, and policy procedure on behalf of the organization. The DEM is responsible for collaborating and communicating with other DEMs, emergency management partners, and the incident commander. During the Fort Chipewyan water treatment plant incident, this included daily meetings and continuous information sharing with the DEMs from Mikisew Cree First Nation, Athabasca Chipewyan First Nation, and emergency management partners from Fort Chipewyan Métis. The incident commander and the DEM then worked closely to ensure that all priorities and objectives directly related to the water treatment plant were addressed as effectively and efficiently as possible, continually reassessing the situation as the incident unfolded. The incident management team, operating from the RECC, the Regional Emergency Coordination Center, lots of acronyms, supported the coordination of water supply to Fort Chipewyan, water distribution within the community, information sharing, and the tracking of all incident-related expenditures. Next slide, please. As part of developing emergency response plans for rural water treatment plants, the process for issuing water advisories and updates was strengthened during this incident. By continually improving this process, it was possible to get information out ahead of water quality being impacted. Community updates were developed and shared daily through social media, printouts, and through collaboration with DEMs and emergency management partners. In total, 11 notices were issued, 7 community updates, and 4 advisories. Community updates were provided until November 7th, then paused while waiting final test results. Printed copies of the updates were available at the water distribution site and delivered to residents who were receiving water delivery supports. All updates were posted at rmwb.ca/waterupdate. Water quality test results from the Fort Chipewyan Water Treatment Plant continue to be posted on this page. Throughout this incident, the webpage received more than 1,000 views from 707 different users. There were more than 219,000 impressions on Facebook and 3,700 on X, formerly Twitter. The main RMWB Facebook page and the rural pages were used to support communication. Staff in the field and those supporting the Pulse line shared consistent information with residents by using FAQs and key message documents. Feedback on communication has been positive from the community, and field staff have confirmed that there were very few questions from residents throughout the incident. The financial impacts for this event are detailed in this table. As of November 20th, 2025, the non-labor costs were approximately $485,000. Non-labor costs include things like the procurement of water, supplies for water treatment plant, accommodations, food for personnel, and the logistics of getting water into the community. Labor costs are just over $403,000. These costs include wages, overtime, and benefits for personnel supporting the incident. Personnel would include those at the Incident Command Post, working in the Emergency Coordination Center, and in the field supporting tasks such as hydrant flushing and water distribution. To date, the combined cost of this incident is approximately $888,000. Upon last update, nearly all invoices had been received from vendors and timesheets had been submitted by personnel, resulting in an accurate reflection of overall incident costs. Slide, thank you. In 2023, the Continuity of Water Supply project began. Led by Environmental Services, Emergency Management partnered on the project to support water distribution in communities impacted by water emergencies. The COWS project focuses on enhancing preparedness for situations where drinking water supply is threatened in different scenarios and communities within the region. Ironically, the first community to have a COWS plan was Fort Chipewyan. This plan was activated during the recent Fort Chipewyan Water Treatment Plant incident. Exercising this plan identified the need to make some amendments and reevaluate some components of the project. That said, the project served its purpose and was used as a guiding document for water distribution to the community. Through the Emergency Coordination Center, water was moved into Fort Chipewyan via barge and air. Over the course of 6 days, a 22-day supply of water was received by the community. The amount of water shipped to Fort Chipewyan was aligned with the anticipated timelines for the water treatment plant issue to be resolved and based on a 4 liters per person per day as outlined in the COWS project. The additional water Fort Chipewyan has received has replenished the previous emergency water supply and will ensure the community is well situated for future water needs. A mobile water delivery service was also established for individuals who had previously been identified through the Vulnerable Persons Registry. Collaboration with DEMS and emergency management partners in the community also helped identify elders and community organizations such as the schools, daycare, elders facility, and Noonie Health, who would require mobile water delivery supports. Water distribution continued until the boil water advisory was lifted.
Over the years, there has been talks about potentially relocating the lake intake or finding a different source of water for the community. While this has been discussed briefly in some studies over the years, no standalone study has ever been dedicated to that very topic. This is why in May of 2025, the RMWB posted a request for proposal on the market to look for a consultant who would study water quality and availability in the Fort Chipewyan area. I'm happy to share that the contract for this project was signed on November 17, 2025, and the consultant has been selected and should start working on it as we speak. The consultant will prepare a community information package before meeting with Indigenous partners and residents. The information packages will cover the project scope, methodology, and deliverable. In addition, the consultant will also schedule 3 full days in Fort Chipewyan to gather information by conducting interviews with elders, knowledge keepers, land users, and residents in an attempt to document the local history and water source information available through oral knowledge. The project will then be divided in 2 phases. The goal of phase 1 is to carry out a review to identify potential water sources. This phase will begin with community kickoff activities and engagement sessions, which will be planned and delivered with support from the consultant. Indigenous partner representatives will play a key role on the project team and will take part in regular meetings as well as key project milestones. By the end of phase 1, the RMWB and Fort Chipewyan community leaders will work together to select a preferred list of raw water sources for further assessment. The intent of phase 2 is to build on the work completed in phase 1 by taking a closer look at the short-listed water sources options and by identifying all requirements that should be considered in the pre-design stage. This phase will focus on detailed review and analysis, including scheduled water sampling at each identified location and an assessment of historical sampling data. Throughout phase 2, the consultant will hold draft report review meetings at 30, 60, and 99% completion to ensure progress is shared and feedback is incorporated. In-person community engagement sessions will also take place in Fort Chipewyan to present and discuss the final phase 2 report. The current completion target date for the study is December of 2026. One of the reasons for that long time frame is the 1 year of raw water sampling data and consultation with Indigenous communities that are included in the study. The next steps after that will be to agree on which option to pursue, hire a consultant to complete the preliminary and detailed designs, then finally proceed with construction of the new solution. This process will take years, but hopefully with full support of all stakeholders, we can shorten it along the way. That concludes our presentation. Thank you, and we're happy to take any questions.
All right. Thank you, Antoine. Thank you, Katie. Councillor Scott?
Yeah, thanks very much for the presentation. One of the concerns, I just want to pick up on where you just left off. Can anything be done to accelerate this process? You mentioned it takes several years potentially, and 1 year, if I understood the presentation. And I see you have some information on the last page of the presentation, but what can be done to accelerate this process? Because I think the people of Fort Chipewyan are completely frustrated with how long this has taken.
For the chair to Councillor Scott, this is a great question. Right now, the way the scope was written, we are looking at doing like water sampling for a year. We probably could shorten that because that is really what's holding us up. Or the other option would be to start assessing the scenarios and with the cooperation of the Indigenous stakeholders move faster and just have the data as once we get the quality data, we can confirm the solution that we picked as more favorable.
Yeah, speaking for myself, I would like to see all steps taken that could accelerate the process. Just one more question to the CAO, which is, water is becoming a crisis all over Wood Buffalo, and I think you and I have had a discussion about that, but can you talk about any steps this council could take to address these kind of issues?
Through the chair to Councillor Scott, yes, we've, when you look at the region as a whole and across all the communities, there is a consistent concern with water with all of our communities, whether it's the quality, whether it's the quantity, and then our infrastructure in between. I would certainly encourage council to have a further conversation around a regional conversation that it would include leadership to leadership, and so that we can come to some common understanding and solutions and address what I would say the broader issues of water. What we're just heard as a presentation is a one event that happened in Fort Chipewyan, but there are other concerns in the region.
Thanks for that. And Mr. Mayor, I'll bring a motion once others have had a chance to participate.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Vardy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Katie, I want to commend you on a good job. And also the strategic communications team. The comments I received from residents was information was readily available, and that was very appreciated. 2 questions. You had talked about lessons learned and how you're going to integrate that into the cows. Is there going to be an official after-action review?
To the chair sorry, to the chair, to the question. Did I say that?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yes, we're actually already in motion on the after action. So we've conducted a couple, and yesterday we had one with the Dems of the Nations. Last week we did one with the internal IMT, and then we have one slated in the near future with the ICP, the Incident Command Post. So, and after all of those are completed, then there will be an AAR, or an after action report.
Perfect. My second question was, are the Indigenous and rural communities involved in the action report? And you're saying yes, so thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Councilor Vardy. I have one question, Antoine. Is there any process or procedures in place now to avoid what happened in Fort Chipewyan on October 29th?
For the chair to the mayor, yes, we are not going to make that one again.
Perfect. Thank you. Does council have any other questions? I'm not seeing any, so I want to thank you, Antoine. Thank you, Katie. Thanks, Chief Tuckero, Chief Adam, President Cardinal, and all the members of the community in Fort Chipewyan for going through this, and all the staff and municipality for everything they've done moving this forward and kind of expediting the process to make sure everyone's safe, especially our municipal staff and our communications staff for getting those communications out to the community. So thank you both. Councillor Scott?
Yeah, the motion I'd like to bring is that administration explore and engage in any steps that they determine beneficial to accelerate the lake intake relocation project. I think some ideas were just mentioned, and I think they should be identified and acted upon as soon as possible.
Thanks, Councillor Scott. Who was second for that? Councillor Vardy?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Yeah, can you repeat that one more time for clarity, Councillor Scott?
That administration engage in any steps necessary to accelerate the lake intake relocation project.
Good. Do you want to speak to that motion, Councillor Scott?
Yeah, I think and I already started, but this can't keep continuing. The people of Fort Chipewyan, I think, are entirely frustrated. Certainly that's the sense that I've gotten through the experience that just occurred, and I know that there were other experiences in the past. And this does seem to have been a project that's lingered for a while, so I think that any step that could be taken that doesn't put human health at risk, that we think could accelerate this project, then I think it should be engaged in.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or debate points? I'm not seeing any, so I'll call for a vote. And Councillor Boussier online is in favor. Thanks, Councillor Boussier. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Moving on, next we have bylaw number 25/026, fees, rates, and charges bylaw, which is being presented for the second and third reading tonight. I'd like to invite Corporate Services to introduce the report, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Lori Farquharson, Chief Financial Officer. Administration has completed a review of the municipal user fees, rates, and charges bylaw, aligning with the Council Policy FIN 030, user fees and charges. This review included benchmarking across other Alberta municipalities. Administration has recommended changes as outlined in the Council report dated November 25th, 2025. Tonight's presentation will provide an overview of the bylaw and the proposed recommendations. Before I begin, I would like to thank everyone in the organization for their efforts to review their respective programs. A great deal of effort goes into this activity on an annual basis. Alberta municipalities rely on two main revenue sources: property taxes and user fees. Property taxes provide stable funding for services that benefit everyone, such as roads, fire, policing, and parks. User fees follow the beneficiary pays principle. Those who use a service contribute towards the cost of that service. An example is transit, recreation facilities, permits, and utilities. This approach promotes fairness and supports long-term financial sustainability. The Council Policy FIN 030 User Fees and Charges provides the framework for the fee structure which guides administration. Municipal services can be grouped into three categories: fully tax-supported services, which includes police, fire, roads, and parks. These programs are funded entirely through property taxes as they benefit everyone. Partially subsidized services include transit, recreation, and facilities. Users pay fees, but tax revenue covers the balance because of the wider community benefits. User fee services are utilities, licenses, and permits. These are direct benefits to individuals or businesses and should be paid fully by the recipient. Municipal funding is about balancing who benefits and how much subsidy is fair and sustainable. The next few slides demonstrate the findings of the benchmarking conducted across similar-sized municipalities. This slide represents jurisdictional comparatives of the three types of planning and development permits. RMWB is presented on the left, showing permit fees for single dwelling, occupancy, and demolition compared to fees in Grand Prairie, Lethbridge, and Red Deer. As illustrated, the recommended permitting fees remain aligned with other jurisdictions. Using the same comparators, this slide demonstrates the Regional Emergency Services permit fees for open air burning, hourly rescue truck rental, and occupant load calculation and certificate issuance. As illustrated on this slide, the recommended fees for regional emergency services remained aligned with other jurisdictions as well. The following slide highlights recommended fees for recreation and culture services for field rental and ice fees for adult and youth. As illustrated, these fees are lower in most cases compared to other municipalities. It should be noted that field rental fees are not posted publicly for Lethbridge. Overall, the recommended fees continue to be affordable and competitive. This slide illustrates the average bi-monthly utility bills for water, wastewater, and garbage annually since 2022. Utilities are an item that is a direct benefit to recipients and should be cost neutral, meaning fees should cover the cost to provide the service. Currently, these services are still being subsidized by tax revenue of approximately $6 million annually. Over the past 6 years, there has been a 10 to 15% increase annually, along with continued alignment of rural billing to the user fee bylaw. For 2026, the recommendation is to maintain the 2025 water and wastewater fees and focus on internal efficiencies before conducting another user fee review. There is a minor adjustment to the recommended garbage fee, which is proportionately increasing the bi-monthly billing estimate. While not shown on the slide, benchmarking was performed on urban and commercial utility rates, and the RMWB remains comparable to other cities in Alberta. The total revenue impact from the proposed changes to the fees, rates, and charges for 2026 is projected to be approximately $1.8 million. Administration is committed to the ongoing review of fees and charges while being fiscally responsible. This concludes my presentation. My colleagues and I are happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Lori. Councillor Allen?
Thank you for your presentation, Lori. I look forward to this one every year. But I guess you answered a couple of my questions that I had related to utilities. And there was recently this little election thingy that happened. And it was a pretty consistent theme that we heard about increasing utility rates. And but you've already explained that where benchmarking shows that we're comparable to other cities. I recall it was a number of years ago that the municipality took a position that we were going to move towards full cost recovery on water and wastewater in particular. And do we know how close to that are we, or are we still heavily subsidizing that? And when we look at the comparators and the benchmarking, are we on the high end or right in the middle? Again, it's pretty consistent. I hear from residents that they're seeing this. That was what, a 27% increase since 2022 in water and wastewater.
Through the chair to Councillor Allen, thank you for the question. We are projecting, I believe within the next 3 to 4 years, we should be at a cost neutral based on the current, where we are currently. However, we have been working very closely. Director Remp and his team are looking at cost efficiencies. So that's why we're not recommending an increase this year. And we're hoping to actually achieve some efficiencies down the road. I can defer to Director Remp if you have anything to add.
No, I think that answers it. I think I know what Antoine would say, but if any efficiencies that can be brought forward, obviously is a benefit to all of us, including those sitting around this horseshoe and yourself. So thank you for your presentation again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Larry, for the presentation. Appreciate it. Last year, when we were talking about rural water and sewer, we were talking more about the rural area. But it was my understanding when I asked last year, and this might go to Director Remp, that 100%. So we're charged 100% of the water that goes out gets charged 100% back into the sewer. Is that correct?
I will defer to Councillor. Oh, goodness gracious. Director Remp.
Going on council. Thank you through the chair to Councillor Weigert. So right now, the way it is working in rural communities where we have meter, then the water consumption is what determines the rate for sewage. So you're correct. If we look at how we bill a resident, it's based on how much water is measured through the meter, and that's what allows us to calculate the cost for the sewage.
Right. And so the assumption is that 100% of that water is going back down through the sewage.
Through the chair to Councillor Weigert, that is correct.
And so when I know what we talked about last year, and it was one of the takeaways, and it wasn't a motion, but it was one of those things that seemed like, hey, we could take it away and find out was going over the winter months where the actual consumption of water would be probably more regular, when you wouldn't be watering your lawn, you wouldn't be filling up pools, you wouldn't be doing all the extra stuff with the water. It would give us an idea of actual consumption rates that was going back down through the sewage. Did we ever do anything with that?
For the chair to Councillor Weigert, the challenge with that, and just to make sure that I understand the question properly, is if we look in the summer and let's say we have a lot more water coming in to water the grass, it obviously doesn't end up in the sewer. We could have a lower rate for the sewer, is what you're referring to. The challenge for setting something like that up with our billing software is that our current billing software needs to be upgraded. And right now, if we were to implement something like that, we would have to do it manually. And that could be a significant headache, I'm thinking, or logistic, but it's something that we could consider. We haven't considered it so far.
Okay. Yeah, I just, because when we talked about it last year, it was an idea that obviously without the extra consumption in the winter, that it would give a better percentage rate of what we'd actually be using, because most people are going to the washroom, taking showers at the same rate in the winter as they would be in the summer. But in the summer, all the extras are going on, like water, like you talked about, watering the grass, filling pools, stuff like that. And I guess the issue when you get out to rural, and it can happen in some lots, even in the urban areas, that when you're watering 2 acres of lawn, that's a lot of water that's not going in and down the sewage system, as well as, like I said, filling up those who have pools, whether it's rural or urban or any of that. And so I guess, is that something that we're just not going to look at? Because I know last year it was a conversation about looking at it, and just wondering if that we just decided no.
Through the chair to Councillor Weiger, it is something that we haven't looked at, but we can look at it. I would just be cautious about making sure that if we're gonna offer a special treatment for the rural, we probably should do the same for urban. So that's something that we should look at across the entire region. And knowing that the current cost of operation compared to revenues, there's quite a gap that we're trying to close. If we were to reduce the billing based on what's being used based on average over the winter, we're probably going to increase that gap, not reduce it. But if that's a decision that is being made here by council, that's definitely something we could look at.
Okay. And then the second question with the rural water, I guess with the rural water and sewer and the urban services, it looks like the fee is the same. Obviously the what would you call that? The service fee is different, but in itself, then the cubic meters is the same. But with the rural water and sewer, it's still the residents' responsibility to then pump out the holding tanks of the rural water and sewer where it's not in the urban area. And so is there any compensation for that?
For the chair to Councillor Weiger, for some residents, that is the case, and for some others, they do have systems now that are connected. So there's a discrepancy between residents, even within the rural communities, where you could argue that some of them don't get exactly the same service than others, and whether they should be treated differently in terms of billing.
Okay, and so, but once we connected the rural water and sewer, those that are having to pumping out their holding tanks, was there ever a look at a different rate for that, or a paid service for that, or is that just now? Because to me, when we look at the equity side of it, there's still a service that they have to pay for themselves.
For the chair to Councillor Weiger, that is correct. And at this point, we do not differentiate those consideration, but it is something that organization could look at if requested by council.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Weigel. Councillor Boussier?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Bowman. I think it's just further conversation that Mike had with the presenter, Lori, about cost neutral. We're never going to be cost neutral in the rural, are we?
Through the chair to Councillor Boussier, that is an interesting question. I do not have an answer to that. The intent for any direct benefit is that organizationally, the services that are provided in their entirety would be cost neutral, and that would be a combination of urban and rural.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Are we even cost neutral in the urban? Because to me, our utility fees are, and Mr. Allen mentioned about benchmarking, you mentioned it. I haven't tried to benchmark with my friends in Calgary, Edmonton, but our utility bills, I think, are fairly inexpensive when you look at it by monthly. But having said that, you have done some benchmarking compared to other communities, and we're comparing apples to apples.
Through the chair to Councillor Boussier, we are still heavily subsidizing both rural and urban. And I'm sorry, I don't have the details related to the information across the other jurisdictions. I don't know if Director Remp has that detail.
And it's, okay, I'll let Director Antoine speak if he has something to add to it.
Through the chair to Councillor Boussier, what I would suggest is the cost neutrality is based on operating costs, not capital costs. So to your questions, are we ever going to get there? If you consider the capital cost, probably not, just with the utility revenue. But in terms of operations, we, as Councillor Allen suggested, we have to work towards efficiencies and rate increase to be similar to what other jurisdictions do, so.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate what Councillor Mike and Councillor Stewart mentioned, and even your comments. I guess my question, if you're going to bring back where, and you touched on it briefly, Antoine, about how we're going to treat rural and urban differently, which I don't know if that's the intent, but I think if we're going to bring back the water and sewer and watering your lawn in Draper compared, or not Draper, Sapri compared to watering your lawn in urban, and if we're going to treat people similar, I guess water in, water out in both communities would be the same, and you fault Sapri Creek owner for having 2 acres instead of, a quarter acre, a half acre, or whatever in town, right? So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we all should pay the same per cubic meter. And I guess if we have swimming pools and bigger yards to water, I'm not sure if we're going to start discriminating between those folks. I don't think that's the avenue we want to go down when we're trying to be fair to everyone. So I guess my question is, out of that is, which urban communities, Antoine, what rural communities are going to be metered?
Through the chair to Councillor Boussier, right now, the communities that are not being metered are Fort Mackay and I believe Fort Chip, but the rest of the communities have meters. And there's no plan to add meters to those communities that are currently not meters, because we do have a rate in the bylaw to address the non-metered properties.
Okay, so once everybody's metered outside of Fort Mackay and Fort Chippewa, everybody's going to pay the same per cubic meter, water in, water out?
Through the chair to Councillor Boussier, there is a different rate for urban and one rate for rural, but everybody should pay the same as per bylaw based on whether they are rural or urban, and whether they have a meter or no meter.
So if lawn meter, I not pay the same per cubic meter currently, right now, according to our bylaw?
Through the chair to Councillor Bouchier, I think your question was whether people in Sapri Creek would pay the same with a meters and residents in other communities with a meter. And if there are rural communities, they all pay the same rural metered rate.
Okay, so apologize for my ignorance, Antoine. So is the metered rate for example, watering our lawn or filling our swimming pools, whether we have one in Sapri, one in the urban, is it not the same per cubic meter for just water?
Through the chair to Councillor Bouchier, that is correct. We have a different rate for urban and a different rate for rural. But
okay, so
all
what's
these
the
rates
difference
are in the bylaw.
So what's the difference between the urban and rural currently?
Through the chair to Councillor Boussier, perhaps I could assist. Under Schedule N, when we look at the urban service area, and this does depend on the meter size, a 5/8 inch is $49.56 for plus $1.18 per cubic meter. I don't even know if I'm actually saying this correctly. The rural service area for the same pipe size is $32.36 in the same per cubic meter. So it is less.
But it's the fixed rate is different, but the cubic meter usage is the same, is it not?
Through the chair to Councillor Bouchier, yes, that's correct.
Okay, so just confirm with Antoine. So if I'm watering my lawn, the fix is different, but the consumption of the cubic meter is the same, correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Bussière, that is correct.
Okay, that was correct. Sorry. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bussier. Councillor Scott?
Hello, I was just looking at the ambulance fees, I think it was Schedule E, and just I think it was Part C, just the advanced life support, age 65 plus, assisted income for severely handicapped age, social services, and immigration transport. And I just noticed that that fee is $191. Does that benchmark against other communities, that fee there, as far as you're aware, or to administration generally?
Through the chair to Councillor Scott, if somebody from RES could assist me in answering that question, I'm not familiar with those details.
Through the chair to Councillor Scott, my name's Kelly Roberts. I'm the Deputy Chief of Regional Emergency Services in the operations branch of our department. All of the ambulance fees are mandated by Alberta Health Services and the government, so they are the same everywhere.
Okay, so that solves that issue. So there's not really any discretion in that?
No, no discretion on our behalf at all.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Van Castian?
Thank you, Mayor. Just question probably for you, Antoine. With regards to cost efficiencies, specifically to the RWSS and rural water, once everyone's hooked up and we cease trucking services, has that cost impact been taken into account when trying to discover if we're going to be cost neutral or where our fees are going to go?
Through the chair to the question. That is an interesting one. So just to make sure I understand it correctly, you're suggesting once we've done all the work and the residents connected, have we set the rate to go towards cost neutral? Is that the question?
The question is, has it been taken into account that we're not going to be running trucks anymore to provide that services will be piped in? There's going to be a cost savings not having to have staff, vehicles, fuel, maintenance. Has that been factored in?
Through the chair to the question, I believe it has, but I don't know if we've gone down to that level of detail at this point.
Thank you, Councillor Van Castian. Councillor Vardy?
Thank you. Lori, this might be a Keith question, but I'll ask you. Under Schedule I Transit, the only increase is the rural rider book, 5 rides for adults ages 13 to 64. It's the only increase, and it's only $6.50. Why specifically that one and nowhere else?
Through the chair to Councillor Vardy, it's actually not a fee increase. It should have been identified as a correction. It was missed last year when we did the changes, so there's absolutely no increases. That was just a housekeeping item.
Thanks, Councillor Vardy. Councillor Scott?
Hopefully last question. I've been looking for the business application permit fees, and I know I've seen the small business one or the home business one, but I just didn't see the general business one. I know it's under planning and development, but I just didn't see it there. Would that be something that might not be obvious to me?
Through the chair to Councillor Scott, I will ask Director Owens if she's able to speak to that.
And I've got Schedule K out.
Through the chair to the question, I don't have the schedule in front of me. They'll be under business license fees within the schedule. But I should note that in the new year, we're coming back to council because we've rehauled the business license fees as they're quite confusing. And we'll be presenting a new approach to council for your consideration.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Councillor Scott. Does council have any other questions? I'm not seeing any, so thank you, Lori. Do we have any presenters for this item, any delegates?
We have no registered delegates for this item.
Perfect, thank you. Can I have someone make the motion for the second reading of bylaw number 25/026, fees, rates, charges bylaw 2026? Councillor Scott?
So moved.
And thanks for a second, Councillor Van Castian. Council, have any debate, discussion, or comments of council? Councillor Luana?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I've been dealing with this issue since I was on that side. And so I have an amendment I'd like to make and then a supplementary motion. Go ahead now.
Go ahead now, please.
Okay. I move that bylaw.
Just amendment, Luana, and the supplementary motion will be after the third reading.
Yeah.
Good.
I move that bylaw number 25/026 be amended by replacing 3, sport field rental hourly in Schedule G, recreation and culture with the following. Number 3, sport field rental hourly, adults, class 1 field 20, class 2 field 20, class 3 field 1250, class 4 field 850, youth, class 1 field 1225, class 2 field 1225, class 3 field 725, and class 4 field 550.
Need a seconder for that amendment. It should pop up there on your screen. And Councillor Brandt seconded that. Thanks, Councillor Brandt. Councillor Boussier, would you like to speak to that amendment?
Yeah, I think through no fault of administration, I think we've uncovered through going back and forth and my absolute frustration, feeling like people weren't being honest with us, we've uncovered a bylaw that's very old that is completely inconsistent with all of the information that has been given to not only adult sport, but this affected the youth too by 100% of their rates. And so this amendment aligns it with how billing has been occurring, and then my supplemental motion will address how we deal with this moving forward and coming to some resolution. But right now, the way the motion initially reads, this is 100% increase on sport field users for youth and adults as it reads. So my amendment just puts it in line with what's been being charged for the last, since 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boussier. And I thought Councillor Ball brought this up as well, these rates last year. So thanks for catching that and being on the ball there. Councillor, have any questions, debate points, or comments? Councillor Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment to finalize on the sewage. I just believe that obviously we just need a bit of a path forward. I think that whenever we jumped in the rural water and sewer originally, I think that wasn't thought through entirely.
I think that'll come up when we go back to the bylaw. This is just the amendment right now.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I'm hoping there's no sewage on the ball fields. Does anyone have any comments or debate points or questions regarding the amendment? Councillor Boussier, online.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. Just curious what our rate charges compared to other municipalities or towns, cities. $20 for the fields we play on, to me is, and I played on them, fairly inexpensive. But I'm just curious what other cities, towns charge.
Yep.
Go ahead, other Councillor Boussier.
I think it depends, and that's one of the things I want in the supplemental motion is some of the benchmarking that has been done is not comparing apples to apples. It's not comparing apples to apples in terms of the maintenance, the class, the fact that some of the examples that have been given in terms of being a rate of $50, $60, $70 has a full-time facility attendant there. So when the gates are locked or something's not done, they're right there. Diamonds are groomed every game. The grass is cut 3 times a week or 4 times a week, not once every 10 days. So really want to do a deep dive, but Lance, for the best example, would be probably Red Deer, which I think is $26.55 an hour, comparing apples to apples. And then some places are like 70 or 80, but they have an attendant.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bussiers. If there's no more debate points, questions, or comments of council, we'll vote on the amendment. Councillor Bussier is in favor online. Thank you. And that's carried unanimously. Moving back to the second reading of the bylaw amended. Councillor Weigel, did you want to bring up your issue there? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to reiterate the fact that in the rural water and sewer, I think it got pushed forward as a great idea moving forward, but we didn't. There wasn't a lot of time and actual planning into what was actually going to look like once we got there. We got some communities that aren't going to receive it, and we've got other communities that have pungent smells because there's not enough people attached. And so in Sapri Creek, for the same idea that there's many residents that are having to deal with the pungent smell of the sewer because there's not enough flow all the way through. And so for me, as we continue to charge it, I do think, I don't think it's wrong to work towards cost recovery. I think that's good fiscal planning. But at the same time, we got to still look at the charging residents for full amounts when we don't have the full services as it goes all the way through. And so I think somewhere down the line, I think that, we need to look at just a way forward as a full path for all residents. But I won't be able to support the motion today, but I just think that we need to figure out something going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Weigel. Any other councillor have any comments, debate points, or questions? I'm not seeing any, so I'll call for a vote on the second reading. Thank you, Councillor Bussier. And that's carried with 9 in favor. Thank you, everyone. Can I have someone make the motion for the third reading? Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that bylaw number 05-026 be read a third and final time.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for a second, Councillor Brandt. Councillor, have any other question, debate points, or discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call for a vote. Thanks, Councillor Bussier. And that's carried with 9 in favor. Thank you, everyone. And Councillor Bussiers, do you want to make your motion?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. I move that administration be directed to meet with user groups to discuss and explore options for incremental adjustments to sport field rental fees under Schedule G, Recreation and Culture, including but not limited to benchmarking of other jurisdictions.
And thanks for the second, Councillor Van Castian. And Councillor Bussier, do you want to speak to that motion?
Well, just further to what I mentioned, I don't think there's any doubt that these fees are incredibly low, and it's time for a fee increase, most definitely. I can't speak to youth, I don't know, but I think it's time to do a deep dive and compare some apples to apples and get things lined up properly and get the bylaw lined up properly with what user groups are being charged, which is what this did. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, and definitely will be supporting this. Does Council have any other comments or debate points? I'm not seeing any, so I'll call for a vote. Councillor Bussier online in favor, thank you. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Next, we move on to the report on Veterans Recognition Initiative. I'd like to invite Project Delivery and Facility Services to introduce the report, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Erin Judge, and I am representing the Project Management Office, and I'm here to present on the Veterans Recognition Initiative. On November the 26th, 2024, Mayor Bowman brought forward a motion directing administration to engage with the Royal Canadian Legion, branch number 165. The intent was to develop a proposed option for the installation of a crosswalk to honor and commemorate Canadian Forces veterans and active service members. Following that meeting, administration from the PMO met with representatives of the Legion to present the concept of a crosswalk. The crosswalk initiative was brought back to Council for approval on March the 25th, 2025. During this meeting, concerns were voiced around the idea of a veterans crosswalk, and administration was subsequently directed to further consult with the Legion and report back to Council. On the screen are the two motions that were passed on November the 26th, along with the resolution passed on March the 25th. After the March 25th meeting, administration had the opportunity to meet with the Legion's Executive Committee on 3 separate occasions. Along with the idea of a mural, the conversation identified other areas that could be supported by the municipality. This included veteran banners, wayfinding signage, and an interest in the Adopt a Trail program. All these initiatives have seen forward progression through other avenues, programs, and departments within the municipality. Preliminary budget estimates for the design and installation of the Veterans Memorial Mural are estimated at $30,000. This figure assumes an approximately 500 square foot mural. On this screen, you will see an image of the Legion and the proposed location for the mural. The following 3 slides depict images of existing veteran murals in various communities. Administration recommends that Council approve $30,000 to come from the Emerging Issues Reserve to execute the design and installation of a mural on the Royal Canadian Legion branch number 165 in Waterways. Further to that, administration would like to engage community partnerships and initiatives through recreation and culture to work alongside the Royal Canadian Legion branch number 165 to put a call out to local artists to design the mural. The intention would be to have the design completed in time for the installation of the mural prior to November the 11th, 2026. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for the presentation and for the information brought forward. Does council have any questions? Councilor Boussier? Oops.
Thank you. So are the veterans flags like that go on the lampposts going to be done for sure?
I do believe they're already installed. So
Never
there was,
saw any. Okay.
when I mentioned about other initiatives, that was one of the ones that we looked at, and I'm assuming you're referring to the veterans banners?
Yes, the banners.
Yes, so 52 banners have been installed ranging from the traffic circle at Toland Drive, down Clearwater Drive, to Saline Creek Parkway, and to McCormick Drive, and that's complete.
Need to go down there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Boussier.
I have one other question, but it's probably for our finance, not for you. Why does stuff like this come out of emerging reserves? Why is it not budgeted for?
Through the chair to Councillor Boussier, we do our best to plan ahead. This particular item had been brought forward before, and they had to go back and reassess the needs that would meet the community. In this particular case, if we don't have any funding, then we would ask for the funding from the Emerging Issues Reserve. Alternatively, it could be put forward on the 2026 budget.
Because that's when it would start, right? Like, we wouldn't be starting till next year anyways. We're not going to have an artist out there, or we're not going to find an artist in the next month, and they're not going to start painting in the winter. So, yeah, why wouldn't we just budget for it instead of taking from reserves? I'm just trying to understand our budgeting process.
Through the chair to Councillor Boussier, if they did want to go to market and they wanted to start publicly advertising, they would need the approved funding to be able to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Councilor Boussier. Councilor Brandt?
Yeah, I remember when this first came up, it was initially a crosswalk, and that was kind of deemed as possibly disrespectful. Now that it's a mural, are we hard set on the fact that it's a mural? I think of, there's a local artist, Ali Kavanaugh, who made a 4-piece metal banner that now hangs at the airport. It's 4 separate pieces that were done in her garage and installed. Something similar of that nature could have, implications for nicer design for our region if possible, and then it allows it to be done during the winter. So to speed up that process to make sure we hit that November 11th deadline.
Through the chair to the question, we're not going to be prescriptive on what that looks like. We're going to suggest that our administration work closely with the Legion and come up with a solution or a piece of art that's going to be agreed upon by the Legion.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Brent. Councilor Allen?
I guess just as an alternative too is that I like the idea of doing the mural. I like the examples that were presented. I mean, anything we can do that demonstrates our respect for our veterans is a worthy project. I don't think $30,000 is a lot of money for this type of art. But to what Councillor Brandt is saying, I don't see any reason why we couldn't look at doing that too later. And we've got a budget process coming up. Whenever there's a need or if there's something that's coming forward, council has the option of debating, taking a look at it and bringing value to it and making a decision as to whether or not it's appropriate at the time. So I don't see why we need to box it into just one piece at this point.
Thanks, Councilor Allen. Has anybody had any other questions for the presenter? I'm not seeing any, so thank you. And do we have any delegates?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have one registered delegate.
And Dale, if you just want to give your name for the record and 5 minutes to present.
Well, 5 minutes is way too long.
I
My
don't
name
know.
is Dale
I heard you
Bentel.
talk.
I'm president of Canadian Royal Canadian Legion Branch 165. I want to thank Mayor and Council and the citizens of Fort McMurray for this initiative. It has been presented to the public in a public forum. We've got feedback from that. We also got feedback from a closed general meeting with our membership. They're all for a mural because it is a year-round depiction of the service that is being put up, and it cannot be covered up. And so that we appreciate. I appreciate administration's work that we've done. We've put poppies on a number of our street signs to identify veterans in our community, and we use that to educate our students and youth so they understand that those names, when they're driving down, actually reflect a person that has done some type of service. The Adopt Trail we've signed into so that we can help in our local area, both with our cadets that we support and our area. And then we also have the banners. The banners have been very well received. In fact, after they went up, I got inundated with a bunch of other requests for it because, like all things, until it goes up, then everybody sees what can be done. But it's a great reflection for our community to see the men and women from our community and those that have served and put their hand up. So for all of that, I appreciate and thank you for that. We look forward to the mural. It will add to the cenotaph that has also been upgraded and bring more attention to the Legion. We were quite surprised when we had the Remembrance Parade this year at the Legion, the number of people that actually thought the Legion was closed. So it's about educating our people. We have been working with Keano College, actually teaches classes there now in 3 different disciplines through the Legion, through the museum. And so through that, we continue to bring the message and history of service to this community. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Dale. I want to thank you and all members of Legion for, bringing back your opinions with engagement and changing our minds on the crosswalk. You didn't bring Jim with you tonight to be the devil's advocate. But I also want to commend this year's Remembrance Day celebration at the Legion was probably one of the best ones I've ever attended. So amazing job on that as well. Councillor Scott?
Yeah, well done. I would just reiterate some of the comments the mayor just made. As a former board member of the Legion, I know how important the work is that you do. Is $30,000 going to meet the intended goal?
Through the chair, I mean, it is a great first step, and we appreciate all that is given. And so there's always room for further, but at this point, it's one step in a path that we may walk further down. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Does anyone have any other questions? I'm not seeing any, so thank you, Dale. Can I have someone make the motion? Councillor Scott?
So moved.
And thank you for the second, Councillor Boussier. Council, have any other debate points, discussion, or comments? I'm not seeing it, so I'll call for a vote. Councillor Boussier online in favor, thank you. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Next up, we have the report on Arts Inc. land transfer. I'd like to invite Community Services to introduce the report. So whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Tony Elliott, Acting Director of Community Services, and with me this evening is Janelle Fleury, the Manager of Community Partnerships and Initiatives. I'm before you this evening to request a nominal purchase of land located at 110, so 10010 to be clear, Manning Avenue. On September 9th, 2025, the Regional Municipality of Wood Buffalo resolved to acquire the property located at 10015 Manning Avenue, known as the Arts Incubator, and to complete the transformation of the former movie theater. Council approved the capital budget of $16,952,600 for the project. While under ownership of the Arts Council Wood Buffalo, the project scope included the property located at 10010 Manning Avenue, so just across the street. The property was not included in the original council report on September 9th. To complete the land title transfer, the council resolution is required that includes this land title. When complete, this lot will become an additional parking space for the facility. And this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Tony. Does council have any questions? Councillor Allen?
Thank you, and thank you, Tony, for your presentation. There's a 10010 Manning. That's currently vacant property, and who owns that now?
Through the chair, it is vacant property and is currently owned by the Arts Council.
Okay, so that was done at the same time we purchased the 10015. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Any other questions from council? I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Janelle. Do you have any delegates to this item?
We have no registered delegates for this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have someone make that motion? Councillor Scott?
Yep.
Thank you. And thank Councillor Allen for the second. Does council have any other debate points, discussion, or comments? Not seeing, I'll call for a vote. Councillor Boussier online in favor, thank you. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Next, we have the report on quorum determination, continuation public hearing for bylaw number 25/012, land use bylaw amendment specific to Lot 1, Block 1, Plan 2321444 in Draper. I'd like Legislative Services to present.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through the chair, is it okay if I present from my desk here? Yes, please. Thank you. I think Mayor Scott, or Councillor Scott has a note.
Councillor Scott?
Yes, I went out and got some legal advice on this one, and as a result of that legal advice, I'm just going to read a statement. Because I did speak at the previous hearing that involved this circumstance. I am free of bias and enter into the public hearing with an open mind capable of persuasion on the basis of the submissions provided through this process. I am here to listen and to evaluate the facts. I am approaching this from a position of neutrality.
Thank you, Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. Through the chair, council members, the matter before you this evening is quorum determination for the continuation of public hearing for bylaw number 25012. We're joined this evening by external counsel Gwendolyn Stewart-Palmer, who has been legal on this file. A public hearing commenced on May 27th, 2025 for proposed bylaw and was recessed that evening to be continued the next day. On May the 28th, 2025, the hearing was adjourned to a later date based on legal advice following closing the agenda item to the public and convening a closed session. The applicant has requested a date be set for the continuation of the public hearing. Under Section 184 of the Municipal Government Act, council members who are absent from a part of a public hearing may choose to abstain from participating in the hearing and the vote on the matter. In accordance with this legislation, the matter is before council to determine whether a quorum is present for this continuation. And I'd like to hand it over to Ms. Stewart-Palmer if she has anything supplemental to add.
Thank you very much. Mayor, members of council, the matter before you has come before you as a result of the results of the general municipal election in October of 2025. Of the 11 seats on council, 7 members are new. Administration is aware that because of 7 being the majority of council, in light of Section 184B, which allows members of council who have not heard the entirety of the public hearing to abstain from voting, members of administration have brought forward this report for you in light of the request by the applicant to put this matter back on before a public hearing to basically reopen the public hearing and have the matter go forward. And in order that administration understand whether it is the desire of council to do so, we've brought this matter back to you to obtain your input as to whether those the vote would be canvassed of all members of council, whether they are prepared to attend the continuation of the public hearing and then vote on second and third readings. So that's the short reason why this matter has been brought before you, and I stand open for any questions you might have now, members of council.
Thank you, Gwendolyn. Does council have any questions? Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Worship, and Gwendolyn, thank you for that. I guess I'm unclear as to when the legislation changed. This was this the Municipal Government Act that changed that would now allow council to participate if they were not present at the initial public hearing?
Yes, it is. It is part of the Municipal Government Act. I'm not certain that it is a change. It's been in the form that I've indicated for quite some time, and it was in this form both in May of 2025 as it is today, sir.
Okay. No, I guess in the past, I just always recalled that if you didn't participate in the initial public hearing, that you don't participate in the rest of the second and third readings of that bylaw. And besides having a perceived or otherwise bias towards the project one way or the other. So I guess it's, I'm obviously going to work with whatever my colleagues decide here, Your Worship, but I'm of the opinion that I'm not comfortable proceeding in a public hearing that I was not privy to or part of. I didn't view it on YouTube. I was not here for that meeting, and So I have no knowledge of the content of who presented and what was presented. So I wouldn't be comfortable with a land use matter that is changing to direct use. I don't think I'd be comfortable participating if I have the option to bow out on this one.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Council, have any other questions for legal? I am not seeing any. So, do we have any delegates to this item?
We do, Mr. Mayor. We have one registered delegate.
Kim Jean. And Kim, just say your name for the record, and you have 5 minutes to present, please.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Kimberly Jean. Good evening, Your Worship and Council. I very much appreciate the chance to speak today. As a bit of background, Bylaw 25 /012 is an application to rezone 117 privately owned acres at the end of Draper Road from small holdings to direct control, which is a very common zoning tool used all over Alberta. The property is adjacent to forest and raw land on all sides of the property, except for a small portion in the southwest corner where there are 2 residential properties approximately a kilometer away from the main building. The application included amending both the current bylaw 99/059 as well as new bylaw 26/001 coming into effect January 1st. As the landowner of the land to which bylaw number 25/012 pertains, I'd like to present reasons to support the continuation of the public hearing. These reasons reflect not only practical considerations, but also values of fairness and trust that guide our community. First, this application and hearing process has already involved hundreds of hours of work from not only myself, but dozens of other private citizens, as well as public servants. So additionally, thousands of hours have already been invested privately, and thousands more as well in taxpayer funds have supported hearings and preparation for this. Purely from a perspective of financial prudence and responsibility to taxpayers, canceling this hearing now would send a very discouraging message, I believe. Canceling now may also send a discouraging message to other applicants who have followed rules in good faith, as well as future investors. It may risk undermining confidence in the process, confidence that is essential for cooperation and long-term growth in our region. If Council feels that more clarity is needed to continue the bylaw hearing, I wonder if there are some simple and practical remedies. I'm not a public administrator, but I'm wondering, for example, if maybe Council could move to lengthen closing statements or to allow for thorough representation, or if Council could request a summary from administration of the bylaw hearing contents so that they can get a clear overview, because you likely don't want to go back and watch the 6-hour hearing. Could Council also move a motion maybe to permit a limited number of speakers or something like that to address outstanding questions or to explain the situation? Perhaps options like these could give Council the information it needs without discarding the progress that's already been made and the investments already made. In closing, continuing the hearing is about protecting taxpayer dollars, but also about protecting the integrity of public processes, respecting the time and resources invested, and upholding fairness for all stakeholders. Doing so will strengthen trust, encourage future development, and show that our governance is reliable on principles. I humbly request that you consider providing quorum to continue the public hearing of Bylaw 25/012. Thank you very much for your time and consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Kim. Does Council have any questions for the presenter? Councillor Boussier.
Sorry. Hi, Kim. Nice to see you. I have a number of questions, actually. I hear you about not wanting it delayed. Why'd you delay coming back?
Oh, it wasn't our delay. It was administration's delay, or I don't know, some delay on the side of the RMWB, I think.
Through the chair, I see Councillor Bousset looking for an answer to that.
Yeah.
As you know, the hearing was conducted in first part of May. Early part of June, a letter was sent to the applicant with a July 31st deadline to indicate whether they wanted to proceed or not. We did not receive that, direction from the applicant. We extended that to August 15th, again, trying to confirm so that we could get in time for the September council meeting, knowing that the municipal election was a month later, so this was our last chance. We then received, October 30th, after the municipal election, we received confirmation that the applicant wanted to move forward.
Can you comment on that, Kim?
No, we provided our direction by July 31st. I can provide maybe the email that I sent to RMWB Planning and Development to you, if you'd like that.
I would, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I watched the hearing just as a geeky citizen long before the election, because that's what I did. So I remember lots of this information. I remember lots of people presenting, some for, some against. But I also remember some disagreement between the applicant and administration saying, we submitted this, we didn't get that, we're waiting for this, we didn't. So I'd like to know where things land. Is this something that a decision needs to be made on tonight? Because I would like to know where the disconnect is.
I'm going to defer that to our Planning and Development Director there. There's a number of things on the go there. But I'll just, before I do that, I just want to remind Council that here in front of us tonight is just a determination of whether there's going to be quorum. That then would inform the true public hearing, and those questions can be asked of administration at that time. Just want to respect the process.
Okay, so just whether or not we're prepared to proceed, or whether we're going to abstain, or
Yeah,
as
that's all
individuals?
tonight is. That's all tonight is, yes, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Does council have any other questions for the presenter? I'm not seeing any, so thank you, Kim. With everybody? So we have some, can we have someone make the motion that is appearing on your screen right now? Councillor Weigel?
Will you participate in continuation of the public hearing and vote on the second reading of the proposed bylaw number 25/012?
Thank you, Councillor Weigel. Got it now. Okay, and thank you for the second, Councillor Boussiers. And does anyone have any questions, comments, or debate points? I'm not seeing any, so I'll call for a vote. And that is defeated 5-5. So thank you, everyone. Next, we have a report on 2025 tax request for tax and account receivables arrears write-off. I'd like to invite Corporate Services to present.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Lori Farquharson, Chief Financial Officer. I'm here this evening to present the request for tax and accounts receivable arrears write-off for 2025 as defined by the FIN 080 account write-off policy. An analysis of outstanding receivables is completed monthly, and an allowance for doubtful accounts is created quarterly for accounts arrears exceeding 90 days while collection efforts continue. An account is considered uncollectible when all possible collection efforts have been exhausted by the municipality. These accounts are often then transferred to an external collection agency that will continue collection efforts. The outstanding property tax arrears in the amount of $5,092.78 are related to 3 leasehold properties. Only accounts opened by the property owner can be transferred to the tax roll. Therefore, these legacy accounts, which were opened under a renter's name, must now be written off. The accounts receivable arrears in the amount of $124,920.76 include outstanding amounts for 7 utility accounts totaling $39,805.76 and 17 ambulance charges totaling $85,115. If Council approves the write-offs, there is no impact to the 2025 operating budget. The allowance for doubtful accounts will offset these write-offs. Administration is recommending that the property tax and accounts receivable arrears write-off of $130,013.54 dated November 25th, 2025, as outlined in Attachment 1, be approved. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Lori. And just to reiterate, as you said, that we're not forgiving this completely. We're still going to be actively collecting.
Through the chair to the chair, that is correct. Collection efforts will continue where possible.
Thank you. Councillor Boussier?
Thank you, Mayor Bowman. Through the chair to Lori. Thanks, Lori. Just curious, if it's gone to collection agency, what do we get out of it? What's their fee?
Through the chair to Councillor Boussier, I'm not certain. They would keep a percentage of whatever they received. I'm not sure what that is.
Okay. The ambulance, I think there were 17. You said I don't have it in front of me. 17 charges?
Correct.
Accounts? Okay. Are these like individuals?
Through the chair to the question, that is correct. In some cases, the people are deceased. In other cases, they did not have benefits and weren't able to pay.
Okay. And I probably already know the answer. If the same account calls, we don't refuse the service because they're in debt to the RM, correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Boussier, that would be an RES question.
Yeah, I can take that one. Through the chair to Councillor Boussier, absolutely not. No, I suppose the insensitive side of the EMS business is never considered in determining patient care. Never.
Okay, and that wasn't my, I guess, direction.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that we're still gonna take the call.
Yeah, sorry. Now, I'll just say our frontline staff have no awareness on the billing side of the back end, so they treat every call the same.
Okay. The 7 utilities, I guess through the chair back to Lori, the 7 utility accounts, or I think it was 7 outstanding.
Sorry, just going back to my notes. Yes.
Okay. Can you expand a little bit of what it is, or?
Yes, I can. 3 of those accounts are business related. So actually, I'm not sure. I don't have a total. It's just over 20,000 of the 39,000 is related to 3 business accounts. And in all 3 cases, these were legacy accounts that were set up in the renter's name. So somebody was utilizing a commercial property set up the utilities in their name, and then in the one case, the business, the person is deceased, another is a receivership. The other one, they closed the account and left town, and we weren't able to contact them. So I have mentioned this to council in the past, but we've changed our process, and if somebody wants to set up a water connection account, any utilities, it has to be in the owner's name. So renters can no longer do this. And that is the problem with the rest of the accounts as well that are individual residential addresses. They were set up in the renter's name, the renter left and then didn't pay the bill.
Okay, and I get that, and I think that's a good move. Is that the same in commercial?
That's correct. So
Okay.
utilities have to be in whoever the property owner is, and then generally arrangements would be made between whoever owns the property and who's renting the property to reimburse, or it's included in the cost of the lease.
Okay, and then just the 3 leaseholds. So the leasehold, are we the vendor, the landlord?
Through the chair to the question, no, these are, I'm just looking at the details here. We are not the account holder.
So how do we, sorry, go ahead, Lori.
I can give you specific examples. With the one company, the business closed and the tenant moved out without paying, making it challenging to collect. The account is now opened in the owner's name to prevent collection issues in the future. The other one was a receivership, and the final bill was not submitted to the trustee for payment in time, and the account is now opened in the owner's name. And then the other one was, it was actually a larger amount of almost $17,000. It was a grandfathered renter account. The business closed and the tenant moved without paying, again, making it challenging to collect, and the account is now opened in the owner's name. So none of these are RMWB properties.
Okay, just, can you expand a little bit on the leasehold and where we are, or the RM's not collecting? Like, can you just give a real life story without mentioning names, or like, I'm just trying to see how we're on the hook for this, for leasehold.
And perhaps leasehold is not the correct term.
Okay.
These were 3 businesses that rented a commercial property here in Fort McMurray, and they set up their utility accounts in their personal name for their business, I should say, and not the owner's account. So generally, if it is somebody owns a property, they have to set up the utilities, and then if they don't pay their bill, we put it on the tax roll.
Okay, so they're not leasing from the RM then?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's just a terminology that the team uses.
Okay.
So apologies for that.
No, that makes sense now. Thank you, Lori. That's it.
Thank you, Councilor Boussier.
Okay.
Does any councilor have any other questions? I'm not seeing it. Can someone make that motion? Councilor Scott.
So moved.
Thank you. And thank you for the second, Councilor Brandt. Councilor, any other debate, discussion, or comments? I'm not seeing it, so I'll call for a vote. In favor online? Thank you, Councilor Boussier. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Next, we have the report on policy management framework, Council Policy GOV-020. I'd like to invite Legislative Services to introduce the report, please.
Good evening, Council. I'm Jade Brown, Chief Legislative Officer, and with me this evening is Tanya Lopez, Manager of Policy. And we're here to provide a brief overview of the proposed Policy Management Framework, Gov 020. The proposed Policy Management Framework strengthens the authorities, streamlines governance, and ensures administration delivers with clarity and accountability.
The framework establishes clear principles for all governance documents, council policies, council procedures, administrative directives, and administrative procedures. Key improvements of the new framework include a streamlined process for policy development, revision, and maintenance, simplified templates that remove redundancies and improve clarity, alignment with best practices to strengthen governance and accountability. And the framework also authorizes the CAO to correct minor clerical errors if they arise.
We believe this framework will enhance efficiency, transparency, and responsiveness across the municipality. In closing, the policy management framework ensures council sets the vision, administration delivers with clarity, and together we strengthen governance for our municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Jade. First, I just want to thank you and your team for all the work on this. This is something that I think was very much needed. Maybe a little overdue, but we're glad we have it now. Thank you. Does council have any questions? I'm not. Oh, Councillor Van de Kasten.
Thank you, Mayor. Jade, excuse me. With this policy framework, are we going to retroactively put that onto policies already in existence and go through those and bring them all up to date?
Through the chair, thank you so much for the question. We are undertaking that work now, and I'm quite excited, as is Tanya and her team, to be a part of this. So we're looking forward to taking that on and tackling a lot of policies in the future. So you'll see us back here quite often.
Thank you.
And we're all glad you're excited about that. Does council have any other questions? I'm not seeing any, so thank you, Jade. Do we have any delegates to this item? We do not. I can have someone make the motion. Councillor Allen.
This is exciting indeed. And Your Worship, I would like to move that the policy management framework council policy Gov-020 as outlined in attachment 1 be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Allen, and thank Councillor Vardy for the second. Does council have any other debate, discussion, or comments? I'm not seeing. I'll call for a vote. In favor online, thank you, Councillor Boussier. And that's carried unanimously. So in closing, I just want to wish Councillor Don Scott a happy birthday. And we have a few other councillors' birthdays coming up. Councillor Luana, your birthday's coming up, and Councillor Cardinal's absence tonight, his birthday's coming up. So a happy birthday, and also being International Women's Day. Thank you to all the women of the world. With that, that's the end of today's meeting. Marcy Cho, Kenan Escumpton, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.